y'all, coming to you from Jacksonville, Florida. This is GovLove, a podcast about local government brought to you by engaging local government leaders. I'm Ben Kittelson, manager at RefTellus and GovLove co-host. And we've got a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking with one of our longtime friends of the pod and discussing running for office. But first, the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. Engaging local government leaders is a professional association engaging the brightest minds in local government. So if you're not already a member, go sign up. It's the best way to support this podcast. And we're also somehow celebrating 10 years of telling local government stories here at the GovLove podcast. And to celebrate, we're opening up a hotline to hear from you, our dear listener. So you can give us a call at 720-282-1752. Tell us about trends that you've seen impact your organizations over the years and where you think local government might be in another 10 years. Now, let me introduce today's guest. Mitchell Silver is a city council member for the City of Raleigh, North Carolina, representing District A. He was elected in 2024 and serves on the Growth and Natural Resources Committee and the Safe, Vibrant, and Healthy Community Committee. Previously, he served as the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation Commissioner. He was the Chief Planning Officer and Planning Director in Raleigh before that, and has been president of the American Planning Association and American Institute of Certified Planners. And was a podcast in the Wayback Machine. He was a guest back in 2016, which I have to say before I fully welcome you to GovLove, council member, that your appearance was like when I felt like we were legit. It was great to get a big name like you and someone that's had such great experience and great perspective to share. I remember being very nervous coming up with questions beforehand. So welcome back to GovLove. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. First, I can't believe that was 2016. So I can't believe 9 years have transpired. And then congratulations on 10 years. Thank you for bringing so much insight and value to local government. Not always a popular topic to everyone, but I do believe there are so many working in local government. Thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I know the hardcore nerds listening, appreciate we think it's cool, even if it's not something everybody's going to follow. But yeah. All right. So a tradition on our podcast is to start with a lightning round to get to know you a little better, get you to warm up before we get into hard hitting questions. So my first question for you, what was the first album that you bought?
The first album was the Jackson 5. I think going back to Indiana, if I remember correctly, and actually it was my first concert. So I did buy the album. I've now, thanks to our Spotify, I was able to get some of those favorite songs. So it was the Jackson 5.
Yeah, nice. So they're back in rotation thanks to Spotify.
Exactly. And digitized, and there's some nice little treats in there as well. So very grateful for whatever. I'm sure all the streaming have it, but yes, Jackson.
Yeah. I know at some point this question will outgrow its usefulness because people will be like, "What do you mean bought an album?" But everything's on Spotify now.
Well, surprisingly, I used to work in a record shop. I have over 2,000 albums in my home.
Oh my gosh!
And
LPs,
DJ LPs, actually vinyl. And now that I'm retired from full-time practice, I'm going to start cleaning it up. And every time someone comes over to the house, they're like, wait, I'm in a state of shock. I used to buy for $5. Now I hear they're $20, $25 each. So I told my son, whenever my time comes, you're inheriting them. Do what you wish. But it's a great collection, mostly from the 70s, the 80s, and then the 90s. And then we started swapping out for compact disc CDs. So I have those too. But the albums are cherished. Cherished prize that I absolutely love.
That's awesome. That's a great collection. Oh my gosh. Mine, I have the one that I started much more recently, and it's like maybe in the 100 LPs. So, but I like to display them proudly. It's a little more of a decoration piece or than anything else. But that's really cool. All right, so my next lightning question for you. What book are you currently reading?
Well, the book I'm reading is by this amazing individual. Her name is Veronica O. Davis, and the book is called Inclusive Transportation, a Manifesto for Repairing Divided Communities. Absolutely adore Veronica. We've been trying to meet each other for years, and we met each other in Florida at a conference. And so that's 6 degrees of separation. She went to school in Maplewood. I lived in Maplewood. She's a reformed, I guess, transportation planner, but has such a great focus on lessons learned and how to really understand how transportation could be inclusive for all. So it's just a great book, a great read. And so I encourage everyone to pick it up if you haven't already. With a foreword by Tamika Butler, who's another rising star, if not already just an amazing individual in the planning and field.
Yeah. No, yeah, Veronica's awesome. She came on GovLove. The date's gonna escape me now, but to talk about the book when it first came out. So if you guys need a listening companion to your reading, you'll have to go find that interview back in the archives. But yeah, that's an awesome date. I really enjoyed her book too. All right, then my last linear question for you: where do you go for inspiration?
Actually, I love watching and reading stories about the underdog,
Mm,
comeback stories. I love reading it because when you think someone is, all the odds are against them, and somehow they find a path to overcome and succeed. It shows a level of resilience, determination. I always have this motto: when tough times come, you have two choices: to become bitter or better. And so
mm,
for me, just reading these stories, these movies about the underdog or comeback story, whether it be sports or favorite one, Rudy, one of those, I watch it regularly. I just get inspired by, these comeback stories, people who have a second chance and succeed. So it just sends chills down my spine because it's been my motivating factor when people said it cannot be done or you can't do this. It just made me more determined to figure
yeah.
out how to succeed. So to me, that's where I get my inspiration. And I watch these stories again and again. And so that's something I would just share with people, just the underdog, including cities, to know
Yeah.
cities like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, all these cities that people felt, in the 90s that were down and out. We kind of call them the comeback kids. That
Yeah.
now Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, they're all reinventing themselves. And Philadelphia, it's amazing to find out that path. And so I draw inspiration from those stories.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, actually going to some of those places like you hear about like Detroit or Pittsburgh, like, and you're being like, this is a great place. Like it's so amazing how they're, yeah, reinventing themselves, but also we're probably great the whole time. They just didn't have the shine that some of the Sunbelt cities were getting back then. I love that. So other than Rudy, do you have another favorite underdog movies
Oh my
that's on
goodness, you're
repeat?
gonna embarrass me. Okay, I love Akela and the Bee. It's just one of those stories to watch. How it's. I just love it. It actually, my wife and daughter make fun of me when I watch it. They know I'm going to tear up. But here's this young lady. Her father passed away. She found comfort in spelling and words, and she just went on through this journey, and in LA of just actually. I don't want to give the story away unless people have said I can give it away. And through trials and tribulations, she was inspired to just go all the way to national championship. This is a fictional story, of course,
Mhm.
and she tied to win the spelling bee. But just the story itself was so moving, so motivational. Lawrence Fishburne played her mentor, and it just gives chills down my spine. So that's another movie. The other one is Braveheart. And another movie, Glory. So I can go on,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sharing some of these stories that I watch from time to time, and it still has the same effect.
I love it. So our listeners have a bunch to add to their to watch list on whatever the streaming service of choice. Perfect. All right. So obviously, I want to spend most of our time talking about your newish role in Raleigh, but this is conversations also kind of part of a series I'm doing, kind of reflecting on 10 years of GovLove. I'm inviting some of my favorite guests back to catch up, but also talk about maybe some of the trends that we've seen over this time. So local government's changed a lot in the last 10 years. And I'm curious, from your perspective, the organizations you've worked with, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in with the organization you've worked with, or they're
Yeah.
either that they've dealt with or that they're continuing to deal with? Like, what are some of those things that you've seen as trends?
Well, to me, the first that tops the list is the influence of social media
Mm,
on not just local government and politics, but just civil discourse in general.
Yeah.
Uh, Years ago, when we had kind of social media, it was on the periphery. Now it is the new digital square.
Mm.
It's where people exchange conversations, but I think it has devolved where both the media and social media focus on the
Mm.
extreme right, the extreme left. I believe most Americans are in the middle, and you really don't hear their voices. And so, responding to social media as elected officials, we can't block anyone.
Mm.
If we're a public figure, we have to keep it open to anyone. And, a lot of the comments, a lot of the, I'll just say, crowdsourcing that you hear is a challenge that we all have to face,
Yeah.
from the memes to the comments. So that has really changed the game. Petitions where people had to go from door to door, now you can do that digitally. How people are now approaching public meetings to express their concern. So to me, social media has been a huge, huge game changer
Mm.
in how we do our work, how we communicate. And so to me, I think that's first and foremost. The
Yeah.
second one is the disruption and the political polarization that we're
Mm.
feeling across the country. It is very difficult, particularly if you're a person that's in the middle in local government. Your goal is to make sure you protect the public interest, public health, safety, and welfare. But people have different perceptions about the
Yeah.
role of government, and a lot of personal politics gets involved. And what may be a simple conversation is now becoming more politicized when it's just a simple vote to make sure you can take the city forward. And so, to me, while it's always been there, it has now reached a level that's become quite a bit of a challenge.
Hmm.
And so that has now entered into local government, and it's unfortunate. But the
Yeah.
good thing is, most elected leaders know that they're not just dealing with national politics, but they have to make sure the potholes are filled, the
Hmm.
trash is picked up, they have adequate police and fire, public safety, that we build affordable housing. And so I think when people realize our job is to make sure we have a functioning local government, whether it's a city, a town, or
Mm.
a county, that we have a job to do. And the good news is that that noise tends to be at the margin, but it tends to be very loud and
Yeah.
amplified because of social media. So I think the disruption is one that's very troubling. And now the last one is we talk in code.
Hmm.
I don't like superficial conversations. When people say, I don't want basketball in my community. Well, what are you really saying? Or I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want this. I need to put a fence between my single family home and a condo. Like, so we're talking in code. And very
Mm.
often, what I try to do is decode what people are saying. And that has now become a challenge. Even the new term, we'll get to it shortly, diversity, equity, inclusion, which has been
Yep.
acronymed to DEI, is also a code word.
Hmm.
So I think that is a new reality. Dealing with that level of disruption and polarization in our politics um, makes the job a little bit harder, but not
Yeah.
impossible to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and all three of those trends are kind of interacting with and overlapping with each other too. Like, and to your point about social media, I totally agree. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in my career, how social media has changed, is that like it used to be where you commented on what what was happening in the news, in whatever institution you were a part of. It was like a commentary on the main conversation, and then at some point in the last 10 years it's become the main conversation, and like there is no like shared, I mean, depending on what bubble or algorithm you're in, sometimes there's not even shared facts and shared
True.
realities, and that makes it really hard. I would imagine, to navigate as an elected official, being like, I don't even know where some of these, like
Yeah,
to your point, code words are coming from, or what you're talking about. Like, how do I even understand like some of this? But yeah,
and I
I
miss the face-to-face interaction.
yeah.
So you can communicate your point of view. To me, that is so valuable that you can talk to someone rather than responding to sound bites and memes.
Hmm.
To me, that's just very, very concerning. So to me, that's something we certainly have to deal with.
Yeah.
It is, like I said, a challenge, but it's certainly a new reality that we all have to confront.
Yeah. How, obviously, like we're going to talk about your being as an elected official and how that kind of changes versus being a staff member. But I'm curious, like on the social media and kind of this political time we live in, like how is that kind of, or those realities, those trends, like how is that impacting how you kind of approach your work as an elected official? Because I imagine there's, there's goods and bads to social media. You can have a bigger reach and with maybe a little less, staff and pounding the pavement time, but you do lose something on the like in person aspect and actually seeing kind of and being a little more real to people. But I don't know. How are you kind of balancing that as you think about your role and also like when you ran a campaign, like
Right.
what does that kind of look like?
Well, for one, I always want to make sure that all conversations were based on fact and reality.
Mm,
Not everybody is comfortable in that space because it doesn't promote their point of view. And so, even the sources that people are sharing with me, I always believe in trust but verify. So, for me, I think one of the important things as an elected official is that you have to kind of what I call pierce through the fog,
mm,
do extra work to find out, is this real or is this just an alternate reality that people are trying to create to understand their point of view? And it's very difficult because very often you have to react based on these realities and say, for example, that's not true.
yeah.
Affordable housing project is coming in. Oh my goodness, it's going to increase crime, it's going to drop my property values, it's going to increase traffic. And that is a reality that people believe, and you have to work through it because we haven't found that to be the case.
Mm,
Even the term affordable, one of those code words, you have to kind of demystify because in someone's mind, affordable means low income. Affordable
mm,
means a person cannot, this is a subsidy, they wouldn't be able to live here, when it's something that's not bad at all.
yeah.
We're pivoting to affordable and attainable housing. So I think that is a huge issue as an elected official that you have to figure out how to communicate what is fact, what
Yeah.
is myth, what is reality, so that you can actually make a decision, but also communicate it to your residents so
Mm,
you're on the same level.
yeah.
That works sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be a challenge because I'm sure there's times where no matter how many facts you bring, people don't always want to believe you or want to be supportive. So yeah, I don't envy your the position you're in.
Right.
Um,
And another one, I think now there's been a little bit of a change when we talk about changing climate.
yeah.
We're in a region, storms are becoming more severe,
Hmm.
stormwater is becoming an issue. Areas that flooded occasionally in the past are flooding more often. And so any project is going to increase, our potential for flooding. As we look to the future, we have to think and plan very differently going forward. So for
Yeah.
me, that is another conversation where some people say, on the national level, they say, oh, climate change is not really real. But on a local level, they're seeing the flooding, they're seeing the storm surge, they're
Yeah.
seeing all these things. And so I just want to make sure we show the facts. And when
Hmm.
people see it locally, they get it. They just struggle with their some with the ideology about, is this climate change really real versus what they're seeing in their community on the ground for more flooding, more storm events. We even had a tornado. I was shocked. It came through Raleigh maybe about 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
so these are realities we now have to deal with. And so to me, that's very important that we have these serious conversations about how to
Hmm.
protect our citizens and property.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well said. Yeah. Bringing the reality home. So in a way that folks can't ignore it. I think that, yeah, that's maybe the role of local government now more than ever.
Right.
Um, So the last time we chatted back in, those 9 whole years ago, you were just like a year or two in, I think, if I remember, if memory serves, to your time as Parks Commissioner for New York City. So, you know, I it was fun to follow your time there from afar. But are there some highlights you wanted to share with our listeners for maybe give them an update on on the
Yes.
work you got to do there since our last conversation?
Well, first, let me say it was the most impactful position I've ever held in my career. to be given the opportunity of leading New York City's park system that has 2,000 parks, 30,000 acres of parkland, 10,000 acres of natural areas within that parkland, basically a city that had well over 100 miles of beachfront, 14
Wow.
beaches. So for me, it was just a privilege and an honor to lead the Parks Department with close to 10,000 staff when we were in the summertime when we were fully staffed up. Uh, for me, the number one is that I came in with a different attitude. I
Mm.
realized that parks represented something different to the citizens, and I wanted to double down on having a park system that promoted fun, joy, and happiness, or
Mm.
health, joy, and happiness, and came up with a vision and mission to really give our staff some clear direction about the role we play to really save lives. Parks are about physical and mental health, and so we doubled down onto that. While I was there, I had the privilege of completing over 850 capital projects
Wow.
over 7.5 years, transforming neighborhoods. And so for me, that was a privilege because I believed that everyone deserved a quality park. In New York, parks represent your front yard, your backyard, your
Mm.
outdoor living room, those social gathering places, and wanted to really create those places that people can thrive. Whether you're a child or you're a senior, we want to make sure, or a teenager, we
Mm.
want to have parks for everyone. The main project I'm most proud of is called the Community Parks Initiative. This was an effort to address parks that have been neglected for over 20 years. And I
Wow.
was shocked when we did analysis. We did this data driven approach to find out over the past 2 decades how many parks received little to no investment. And it turned out there were over 200. And so the
Wow.
mayor and I felt that was not fair. And we decided, the mayor gave me a substantial amount of money to renovate from the ground up 67 of those 200 parks. And when I stepped down as commissioner, the mayor authorized another 100 parks. This was
Wow.
a full transformation. We don't have time to go through all the stories. I can't begin to tell you how transformative it was. People came to me and started saying, I thought nobody cared. I can't believe you're doing this for us. And the great thing about it, and these parks are stunning, that
Mm.
crime in these parks went down.
Huh. Yeah.
We focused that if we're going to redesign these parks, we wanted to do a world class design because I felt that if we build the very best quality material in parks, the public will respect us back in return. And they
Yeah.
did. In the past, we built quote unquote vandal proof parks, and the community felt it. We did the
Mm.
opposite and created these engaging, beautiful, colorful spaces with landscaping and trees and really focused on bringing the community together. And we were able to get about 82% of the time a friends group to help care for that park. So by far, that was probably the most successful and rewarding program I was involved in. And it continues on with the Parks Department. So it
Yeah.
shows the importance of that legacy of that program. It is still going on today. The other
Yeah.
one was Parks Without Borders. I was
Mm.
very concerned about how we fenced and gated our parks. People felt, well, we fenced our parks, we want to keep it safer. I'm like, well, I don't know how many swings and play equipment was mugged at night, so I don't know why
Yeah.
we're engaging it. It was 7 foot fence with spikes. And so this program was focused on how do we create a seamless public route?
Mm.
Streets, sidewalks, parks, public spaces. Let's remove the barriers and let's create a more seamless and welcoming public route. That was launched as a pilot. We did 8 showcase parks, nominated by the public. It was so successful, we made it a normal program into the Parks Department. And I think before I left, we completed well over 100 Parks Without Borders transformation. What we did was we lowered fences or we eliminated fences.
Mm.
We started putting openings around the park that did not exist before to give people more access to the parks. We redesigned sidewalks as the outer park and worked with the Department of Transportation to start to look at the street and the sidewalk to start to make them more seamless.
Mm.
That project has been transformative. It went international. I was invited to Australia and other places to show how they applied this technique. But the
Cool.
last one to me that was most important is I led what I called a culture of care. To me, it
Yeah.
was important that maintenance is one thing,
Mm-hmm.
care is another. The example I always give is that I have a 27-year-old daughter, and when I raised her, I cared for her. I didn't maintain her. Caring comes from a different part of the soul. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to tell staff, yes, we'll do the maintenance checklist, but I want to go deeper and I want to take care of these parks due to care. Care for the parks, care for the park goers, care for the employees. And that caught on. And so I led with something called a culture of care. And when I left as commissioner, my staff said the number one thing we will never forget about you is the way you cared. To me, that was transformative, and that's something that I live by to this very day. So, those are some of the things that we were able to do. We expedited the capital process to make sure projects got done quicker. So, for me, it was something that was so rewarding, and
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that in all my projects, everything that I do, I want to make sure these projects bring me joy. And being Parks Commissioner, brought a lot of joy, a
Yeah.
lot of joy.
Oh, that's amazing. And I want to ask about culture, but something you said about the it's almost the nature of parks in a place that dense and how they are someone's like front yard and backyard and the place of community. Like, that made something click for me that like of course like rethinking how these parks are laid out and like the access to them and like what they feel like and like how people interact in them would have such an impact on the neighborhoods and the like communities. Like it would it would change, and I would imagine it would change your street or your neighborhood to like have a park that is more welcoming if that's like where you do all your interaction and all your kind of outdoor time. Like it's going to totally change to the feel of a place and a neighborhood, and that's such a huge I can't
Yeah,
imagine what that kind of impact that would have. Yeah.
yeah. And then during COVID, because I was commissioner during COVID and for the civil and social unrest,
Mm-hmm.
very quickly I realized as everything was closed, everything except supermarkets, pharmacies, and some government buildings, not even that, unless they were open just for people to work, that parks started to become everything to our
Yeah.
citizens. And it wasn't just in New York City. They became an office. They became
Mm-hmm.
the new location to hold events. They became outdoor gyms. And I soon recognized that at this moment, parks became our sanctuaries of sanity. And
Mm.
I would watch people walk going into Central Park off Fifth Avenue, and you would literally see the stress dripping off of them
Wow.
as they entered in this green sanctuary. And in fact, I had stated when I was interviewed by the New York Times that our parks during COVID became our sanctuaries of sanity
Mm.
because parks have the power to heal and to bring joy. And so across the board, we have doctors that are recommending take a walk in the park. It has power, not just
Yeah.
for physical health, but for mental well being. And to this day, people learned that from COVID, having those green spaces has such deep mental health benefits. And so I take a walk every morning before I wake up. I don't look at my phone. I don't look at television. I put on my headphones, go out for a walk in a nice green landscape area, and I just meditate with music, and I come back, and now I'm ready to start the day.
Yeah.
That to me is a mental health benefit, and the power of parks and public space. And every city needs to understand that. Every town, every village, every location, that parks should be considered part of our healthcare system because it has the power to heal and to bring joy.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. I love that. Um, so you mentioned the culture of care piece, and I'm curious. You know, I love that sentiment, and you're right. Like that care, like emotes something different than maintenance and a maintenance checklist. I could see how that would change an employee's like way of thinking. I'm curious. You know, that that's a great like culture piece, but like, how do you with an organization as large as the parks system is in New York, and you mentioned it was like 10,000 employees at peak season. So like, how do you think about distributing that kind of culture and like through an organization that large? Like
Right.
obviously like that's a different kind of task than, you know, a department of 50 or 10. So like how did you guys kind of approach like wanting to change a culture for such a big ship?
It took a couple of years, but first we came up with a new vision, mission, and strategic direction, and care was built into it.
Hmm.
For our maintenance people, we told them if you're going in and cutting grass and you see something wrong, report it. If you see a light pole and the plate is off and you see the wires exposed, report it. A 2 or 3 year old child can play with and get electrocuted. I
Hmm.
want them to treat it as if the public is part of your family and you
Hmm.
have to look out for that danger. But conversely, how do you create an experience that would help bring that joy? So I charge people to look a little bit deeper. There were areas that they decided to plant some gardens. Luckily, we had horticulturalists and gardeners just to put it in right places. And people came back to me and they saying, "Do you know what smile is on my face walking to work now every morning?" It's the little details to show how do we show that we care. So that was
Yeah.
to the park goers just to elevate and think very carefully about their experience in our parks to make sure maintenance is taken care of, not because it's on the checklist, but a person cannot sit on this bench. There are 3 boards missing.
Yeah.
Let's fix it. The
Yeah.
fact that there are boards missing means there's no bench.
Mhm.
If the restroom is not operating, that means there's no restroom. And so we wanted to make sure that we tapped on the experience of people coming to our park. For the employees, I did an employee survey to kind of check the pulse of their morale. I got some feedback, and then we created an employee resource group and started going down the list about what we can do, what I
Mhm.
can do as a commissioner to make their daily experience working for parks better. And so we got a lot of ideas. I'll be honest with you, I implemented all of them. There were
Wow.
some spaces that they worked in the district, our maintenance crews, that hadn't been touched from the days of Robert Moses. We
Wow.
decided strategically to start fixing those spaces little by little. And so that is what I did for the employees to show them that I cared, look carefully at how we could increase salaries and titles. And then I wanted staff to look at our volunteers. They're not getting paid. Why are they coming to our parks every Saturday, sometimes twice a week, to help clean and offer
Mm.
programs? Because they care. So
Mhm.
look at them to get some inspiration. They are not taking your job, but they're supplementing and adding a level of care to this park. And so we had to celebrate those volunteers. Every year, we gave them a golden trowel, working with Partnership for Parks, to celebrate those that cared for our parks. And so after a couple of years, staff got it.
Hmm.
And we
Yeah.
started seeing reports coming in for little things that needed to be fixed. They became our eyes and ears. And there was a level of care that was just beyond my imagination. And
Yeah.
so to me, that's what it looks like. But it had to come from me. And my job was, if you work for me, Ben, what do you need to be successful at your job?
Yeah. Yeah.
What can I do for you to help you become more successful? Is it equipment? Do we need to change your schedule? Is it an increase in salary? That's hard to do.
Mhm.
What is it? And so we were able to accomplish that over the 7 years. And the staff said this. He doesn't just say it;
Yeah.
he does it. And to me, it's not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And to have a culture of care, you have to be intentional and show it every single day. Last one, I think I probably said thank you a million times. I would jump out
Yeah.
of my
Yeah.
car if I see a maintenance crew, jump out and say thank you, to show appreciation
Yeah.
for being there. So that to me is what that culture of care looks like.
Yeah. I love that. That's a lovely like sentiment, and I think a lot of good lessons there for listeners. Not to put words in your mouth, but like setting that overall vision, celebrating, empowering your staff, celebrating the successes. Like that is, I mean, how you start to see change over time. Is like is doing those things. So, yeah, I love that. All right, so I do want to talk about Raleigh, and we've spent most of the time not, but what? So you've had a successful time at the parks as a parks commissioner in New York. What brought you back to the old North State, back to Raleigh, like, and then secondarily, what made you want to run for city council?
Well, first things first, I knew all along when I grew up in New York, accepted the position in Raleigh, went back to New York. I always knew I was going to retire in North Carolina. I said that when I was leaving back in
Mm,
2014, when I was leaving from Raleigh to go to New York, and nobody believed me. And when I came back, they were like, "Oh, you're serious." So I have
yeah,
a son that lives in Raleigh, and I have 2 grandkids, a lot of friends, and so that was something I always wanted to do. When I came back, I joined a consulting firm. I told them I'm only going to work 4 years. I want to retire at 65, and I did. And so when I came back, I really didn't get engaged in local politics or planning. I felt I was a playing director. I wanted to give the new team their space to do what they need to do. But after a while, I realized, there's a new comprehensive plan that's being
Hmm.
discussed. I was getting a little bit concerned about some of, not all, but some of the deadlock votes on council that were tied 4-4.
Hmm.
And it was the first time I lived in a city that I wasn't somehow connected to the city.
Oh,
And
interesting. Yeah.
so the first time I was approached, uh, not this election cycle, the previous one, they said, "Hey, would you consider running for office?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I don't really have a vision for what to do." But then over the next 2 years, paying more attention to what was happening on city council, some decisions that I felt were not the right decisions, I felt that I could add some value running for office, and I did. I
Hmm.
came up with a very strong platform I was comfortable with, and I was very pleased to win. But I really wanted to be connected with the community where I lived. I was
Yeah.
traveling over the country. I was advising other cities, not just here, but abroad. Why not Raleigh? And so that was
Hmm.
my decision to throw my hat in the ring and run for office.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to kind of go back to those campaign days, like what was that like kind of being, having to campaign for office and run for an elected position? I mean, that's got to be a little bit like putting on a hat that doesn't, or pants that don't fit from when you're a staff member for your career. So I'm like, what was that like for you as you were kind of going through that?
Well, I spoke to several people I knew who ran for council, both who were successful and unsuccessful, and they shared with me their point of view. Unfortunately, until you go through it and experience it, it is hard to explain. I'll do the
Mm,
best I can. I think, for one, clearly campaigning and governing are two different things.
yeah.
You do have to come up with a platform, or at least what are you running for. I came up with 5 points. But the fundraising, to me, I probably struggled with the most.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it's par for the course. You have to raise funds for your campaign manager, for campaign staff, for a lot of things that you have to file. I found that probably the most difficult. But at the same time, I did enjoy part of it because a lot of people said, "Look, I'm not just going to give you money. Let's have coffee." And so I got to meet a lot of individuals, drink a lot of coffee. I actually had to transition to decaf because I only drink 1 cup of caffeinated coffee a day. But it gave me some insights, and I started hearing some themes. So to me,
Hmm.
that was beneficial. The one I think that was most shocking that no one prepared me for was that you have these questionnaires
Yeah.
from all sorts of organizations. They average from 10 to 20 questions, and they're tough questions.
Hmm.
And so once you finished one, 3 more arrived, and they had deadlines. And this is quote unquote to get an endorsement. And some of these questionnaires are way outside of my expertise. Luckily, I had a campaign manager. We had to come up with a response. That to me, I think, was the most challenging. But apart from that, meeting people, going out there, campaigning during the election time, we had early voting and meeting a lot of people. To me, that was refreshing. Actually, we actually had some panels. So for me, other than the questionnaires, which they were tough, and raising funds, that was tough. I did enjoy getting to learn the city, my district, the
Hmm.
residents, some of the issues I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it probably forces you to see parts of the city you wouldn't otherwise, and then I can imagine like you have expertise in aspects of local government that you've spent your career working on, but you probably haven't spent as much time on like on other areas, and so you have to like almost go back to school and like figure out what you think and, and what
Yes.
you want to do. Yeah. So, what were like some of the, or what are the things you hope to accomplish in your time in office? I know you mentioned the comprehensive plan update that's coming for the city. Like, are there? So I assume that you would like to have a little bit of a say in that, but are there other things as well?
That definitely is one I want to have a say in. Raleigh is on such a great trajectory.
Hmm.
So many great things are happening. Very proud to be part of the last comprehensive plan. That was a 2030 plan. We're about to initiate a 2050 plan. So that was one of the reasons I decided to run. The other one is big ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm very pleased the council just had a retreat this past Saturday to talk about some of the big ideas. To me, is what defined Raleigh as a great place. We dreamed big and we completed it from taking our main street, which was a pedestrian mall, and making it now a vibrant street and the center of our community. Our Raleigh Union Station, which I was part of, which was basically a shed and just an elevated platform that now is this major destination on the west side of our city.
Mm.
So, talking about some big ideas, getting that done, addressing the issue about housing in general, not just going to say affordable housing, but we're expected to attract between 200 and 250,000 people by 2050. Now,
Wow.
that's going to reshape our city. And
Hmm.
so I want to help figure out how we can accommodate that growth. Now, I'm on the council side, but I've worked on comprehensive plans, and so I want to be that voice to help the council make those tough decisions to prepare for that growth. As I mentioned earlier, climate is going to be a challenge. Stormwater is
Hmm.
going to be a challenge. Transportation alternatives are going to be a challenge. What type of housing we're going to build to make sure it's diverse for everyone. So those are things I want to accomplish of having a very strong blueprint for growth, a strong plan for how do we accommodate housing, to make sure we have a strong plan to address our changing climate, which leans into our park system. And
Hmm.
so those are some of the things I hope to accomplish in my term. I just announced I'm running for reelection. We had a 2 year term. It's now moving to a 4 year term. And I will let everyone know this is the last time I'm running. If I win, I will have served the city 6 years and I can officially retire
Yeah.
when I retire as I am today.
Yeah. Famous last words so far. Yeah.
No, I'll be 70. I think I'm good. I'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I win and I'm 70, I've done my part and now I can just enjoy the grandkids.
There you go. Perfect. Well, yeah, I mean, those are obviously like really impactful things to be working on as a council member, and like a fun time to be at that level for the city. Um, so I'm curious, obviously your, experience as an elected is informed by your time, being in a staff member. Like, how do you kind of approach governing and knowing that, hey, you're an expert on a lot of the stuff that you'd like to move forward on? Like, how do you approach kind of like working with your colleagues to like build buy-in for like, some of the initiatives you see change, or some of the policy areas you want to explore, versus like working with staff? Like, I'm just curious, like, kind of how you navigate that, given your kind of specific background and expertise, sitting at that dais.
Um, Ben, you just named my number one challenge. I struggle with it every single week.
Yeah.
I was a person on the other side of the table that when I heard council raise an issue, I sat down with my team and I said, let's figure out how to fix this.
Mhm.
I'm not in that role anymore. Some staff that are in the planning department used to work for me. In fact, I hired some. So there is this mutual respect. Uh, but I also have to know that I cannot interfere. I can
Mhm.
only offer guidance. I'm only one of 8 votes. We have a council of 8 members. And so I can share my point of view, but the city manager is aware. I struggle because when I hear a problem on the council table, I probably have experience and here are some 3 solutions, but
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
my job. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to hold back. There are times I offer my expertise if needed, but I have to understand I'm legislative and policy and budget. I'm not in operations. So the best I can do is offer my advice, but I'm constantly shaking my head. It's like, I know how to fix this. I know how to
Yeah.
fix this. And how do you say that in a way that doesn't look to your colleagues and say, okay, here he goes again? My
Yeah.
point is each one of the council members have a set of expertise. We have 2
Mhm.
attorneys, we have a community person who is an advocate for local needs, we have a teacher, we have a natural resource expert, the mayor who has deep knowledge in local government and state government. Mine is planning and parks. And so you
Mhm.
want to make sure you add to the conversation, but it is the biggest challenge I have. that I want to be that problem solver, but on a different side of the table. The last point is I understand staff, and so I do support them when they do become under attack by the public for some policy decision. I'm there to support them and back them so they understand staff's perspective, and they're not a
Mm.
target because you don't like a recommendation or decision they made.
Yeah. 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 I imagine that makes a huge difference to staff to have someone that's been in their shoes that is supportive in those kind of situations. Cause that,
Yeah, counsel in general. I'm not the only one. I think counsel in
yeah. Oh yeah.
general, but I think I know them, and
Yeah. Um, so I'm curious, is there an example that comes to mind of the like, hey, I know how to solve this. Have you guys tried this? But you having to like kind of back away from that and being like, all right,
yes,
let's be to policy.
yeah. So very recently, we had a road widening in my district that we had to basically cancel. This project was going on for 12, 13 years.
Oh my
The
gosh.
bond passed in 2017. For a variety of reasons, delays, council holding it back, the project price went from 56 million to 93 million.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had to make the hard choice of just redistributing the money because we could not find a path to getting that project done. And it is a very important corridor. I think for that one, I had suggested running a large capital program in New York City that when you have a capital project, we have to give clear instructions that we cannot waste time because every day you wait, the price tag goes up. And so I
Yep.
had some recommendations how we streamline not a planning process, but a capital process where we have funds set aside to do a project. Time is of the urgency. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had offered some ideas about how we can streamline our capital process to avoid some of these pitfalls so a project will not almost double in price.
Yeah. And that's like an internal process that's like all like within the city's control. But yeah.
Right. It is. And,
Yeah.
that's a lot to go up that high in a
Yeah.
short period of time and to make, close to $40 million. We just couldn't afford it. We tried to value engineer it, didn't work. And to me, let's have a lesson learned here. And when we have a
Mm-hmm.
capital project, we have got to put expectations to council, to the public, that we can't keep revisiting the design. Every time you do that, you're adding another $2-3 million because of the delay.
Yeah. 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 No, that makes sense. So you mentioned y'all had a retreat recently around some kind of big trends and big ideas. Like, what are some of those areas that you guys discussed? Like, how did you kind of maybe go into that meeting and approach it? Kind of, I don't know if it's the first kind of retreat like that you've been a part of as an elected official, but I'm curious, kind of your experience again going from staff to elected side, and then what are some of the things that y'all discussed and are trying to work on?
Well, first and foremost, it was my favorite retreat. It was the second one. We did one when I first got elected in January. This was our mid-year retreat. We talked about affordable housing and what is our
Mm-hmm.
approach going forward. Deep dive conversation, fascinating about the choices we need to make to start looking at more sites to produce affordable housing. So that was one topic. The other one was the comprehensive plan. Staff gave us an update about where things stood, what's the timeline. So we were able to give some feedback, and they were offering the touch points along the way. We expect to adopt it sometime in 2027. So we got a deep conversation about that. Another fascinating topic, which is called steady state capital budgeting.
Hmm.
Rather than waiting every 4, 7, 9 years to issue a referendum for either parks or transportation or facilities, we talked about steady state. This is an approach where every 4 years we at least put on the ballot a referendum. In our particular case, we figured out 200 million every 4 years would be a zero tax increase.
Oh,
And then we
interesting.
would prioritize, if you go over, then it may be a half cent, a penny. And
Hmm.
so other cities are using steady state. And this way we can have this recurring theme so we can plan better. And it's more likely the referendums will pass. So that was a conversation. And then the last one, which I enjoyed the most, I shouldn't say enjoyed the most, thoroughly enjoyed, is we had a conversation about big ideas. And so
Hmm.
we had some homework to do in advance. And then we were able to discuss what are some of the big ideas and priorities. They're long term, but to really start getting our community excited about what is possible. Oh, we did have a conversation about a legislative agenda, and so
Hmm.
that was the first item. So that was a retreat, and it was an amazing, insightful educational experience, and staff got what they needed to move forward, and we'll get to see the results of that retreat very soon.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you're like they're all my favorite the topics, but the big idea section, like what were some of the things that y'all discussed? I assume it's like thinking, like you said, like longer term and bigger picture, and maybe less tactical. But what were some of the things that y'all were brainstorming on?
Well, one of our main boulevards, now it seems more like a highway, is called Capitol Boulevard. So
Hmm.
we talked about reimagining that corridor as higher density, linear park. There's a creek to create a river walk. Probably could accommodate, who knows, 10, 15, maybe 20,000 units that could
Wow.
help with that growth. And so reimagining the entire corridor, which is about 6, 7 miles from our downtown out to our edge, that was one. Um, Another one was people are what it service at the top was a regional transit system which includes light rail.
Yeah.
That surprised me. We're pushing on bus rapid transit. We had a plan for light rail which failed,
Hmm.
so they talked
Hmm.
about a regional transit system. That was one of those big ideas. There was another one about we have a civic campus and there's a park nearby. It hadn't been touched in decades, and how do we incorporate that as one of the new destinations?
Mm.
We have a new downtown park, Dick's. It is
Yeah.
300 acres, and so the big conversation is you can't get from downtown to Dick's easily. There was some
Mm.
conversation about how do we figure out and get that connection done. We've heard ideas about a high line, a gondola, a strollway, a glideway, and so we just felt it was time to elevate that. We just opened up Gibson Play Plaza within Dick's Park. It attracted over 400,000 visitors
Whoa.
since it opened in June. The
Oh my
second
god.
most visited destination in North Carolina outside of the Outer Banks.
Wow.
So it shows you essentially uh, the power of parks, but that for us we felt was very important. And the idea is that we've got to figure out how to make this connection happen.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a fascinating challenge of like, hey, there's this huge resource that we have, but the we just can't connect people to it very well right now. And like, how do you think through that? Oh, that's really fun. Well, I'm jealous of have those conversations. That sounds like a great way to spend a week a weekend day or a couple of
Yeah,
days.
it's a Saturday, 6 hours, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm before we end our time together, I have one more kind of elected official question for you. I would imagine a lot of our listeners have either thought about or considered, or maybe in the back of their mind, it was something that running for office was something that maybe someday when I'm retired, when I'm out of the rat race of being in local government as a staffer, like might be something that they would consider. What advice would you give to someone that's thinking about running for office or might want to someday? Like, I know there are challenges and good things with it, like your retreat, but also I'm sure there's some challenges. Like, what advice would you give to someone that's considering making that kind of change or thinking about doing that as part of some point in their career?
Well, for one, if you run for elected office, I'll just put it easiest way I can explain it. You're part of a team. It's like you're part of a
Mm,
board, and you have to go in understanding you're going to have to figure out how to reach consensus with your colleagues.
yeah.
It's not what you want, and you can push forward. Our council is 8 members. We need 5 votes to move everything forward. So it's understanding you have to form relationships, even though someone may not share your point of view, in order to get anything done. So understand you're part of a team, and consensus is going to be first and foremost. That's number one. Number two, you have to kind of have tough skin.
Mm,
I'm not saying it happens all the time, but you have to be committed to your role and goal, and that's to protect the public interest, to protect public health, safety, and welfare. I believe that should be your primary goal. And so once you go in, you have to keep that top of mind. and recognize there's going to be some tough days. You need courage to make tough decisions. But to me, it is so rewarding that you're now part of a team that is not only watching after the public's back as well as businesses and the entire city itself, but you actually can come up with great ideas, budgets, policies that can actually move the city forward and really have an impact, not just on today, but on tomorrow. So I find it rewarding. I'm fortunate in Raleigh. It is a part-time job, technically.
Yeah.
But you can moderate how well you want to be engaged. The last part I'll say was very rewarding is as a member, you get invited to so many events and programs. It gave me a new appreciation for our city. I had no idea so many things were going on. We had so many amazing people that live and work in our city that you get a chance to interact with them. You talked about inspiring. I hear some of those inspiring comeback stories. So just the ability to engage residents, hear them, and then channel that into positive programs and policies and budget, to me, puts you in a position of making a difference. Again, you're one of 8, depending on the size of your council, but you have to go in for the right reasons, because there are times there'll be some tough votes that you have to make, and it really starts to challenge your conscience about, am I doing the right thing? But in the end of the day, it is a rewarding ambition to pursue.
Oh, I love that. That's a lovely place to end it. So I love that. So my last question, which is always the hardest for folks, if you could be the Gov Love DJ and pick the exit music for this episode, what song would you pick?
I'm going to be consistent with my brand, and they did this at the Parks Department. It's Happy by Pharrell.
Yeah. Perfect. Yes, that's very consistent. I love that. Well, awesome. Well, Councilmember Silver, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your expertise and your experiences. This has been lovely.
Thank you, Ben, and again, congratulations on 10 years. Looking forward to the next 10.
Yeah, thank you. For our listeners, GovLove is brought to you by engaging local government leaders, and the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. You can reach us online at elgl.org/GovLove or at our page on LinkedIn. You can subscribe to GovLove on your favorite podcast app. And if you're already subscribed, go tell a friend, a colleague, a neighbor about this podcast. And as a reminder, you can help us celebrate 10 years of GovLove by giving us a call on our hotline at 720-282-1752. Tell us about the trends you've seen impacting your community and what you think local government might be like in another 10 years. And with that, thank you for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.
Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense